Hey there, investors. My name is Devin Moreno, and today I want to talk to you about one of the most powerful aspects of real estate investing, and that is the ability to use other people's money in order to fund your real estate transactions. So, as many of you know, when I first started in real estate, I actually started with only $500 in the bank account. That's all the money that I had, and I had no knowledge of real estate, none whatsoever. I didn't even know how to buy a house when it first began. So, how did I go from that, and then 2.5 years later now, where I now own 6 properties and I'm trying to buy 2 more this year? Obviously, I could not use my own capital. I didn't have it, so I had to use other people's money. So today I wanted to talk to you about how I got to convince people throughout my entire journey to give me tens of thousands of dollars for their real estate deals. And even doing so with no money of my own and no knowledge of real estate of my own at the time of which I started. So that's what I want to get into today. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, some of you out there probably are thinking, well, if I have my own cash, then I don't really need to use other people's money. Well, this is not true for several reasons. If you want to expand quickly, you are going to need other people's money. The power of leverage cannot be understated. It allows you to purchase more properties faster, but even beyond that, you need 3 months cash reserves in your bank account for every property you own, which means the more properties you have, the more you can't actually throw your money around anymore. It has to stay within a liquidable sort of state. Another thing is that you need to build these relationships now so that way later on, when you need them for the larger sums of money, they will be there for you. It's easy enough to ask someone for 10 grand. It doesn't sound easy, but that's pretty much a small amount in real estate. If you're asking for 10 grand now, imagine when you want to get to that $5 million deal later, you're going to need a lot more money from them, and you can't hit them with that starting off later on in life. You want to already have these investors. Plus, the more people you have investing in you, the more you're going to build the confidence of future investors. So this compounds upon itself to say, I'm already have 5, 6, 7 investors. You can be the next one making money on your money. So this is something I would still encourage those who already have a lot of capital of their own to do. And the fact that millionaires are doing this still, even millionaires are using other people's money, should go to say something about maybe the 500 grand you might have sitting in your bank account. Now, I want to go into the first of 7 lenders and how I found them. So this one happened about 6 months into my investing journey. What I did was I first started off learning as much as possible. Okay, it was one of 2 things. These 2 things are the things that convinced her to give me 10 grand. The first one is I learned as much as I could, crammed in real estate knowledge. I unsubscribed from every single non-real estate channel. I had podcasts and books I was reading. I absolutely absorbed all of it. And the important part about this is so that you can sound like you know what you're doing. You want to absolutely sound like you have all of this down to a T. Even if you don't necessarily, remember, to a person who's not necessarily an investor, you still could sound extremely knowledgeable in your craft. So you want to show that diligence. She saw that. Now, what I did with her was I talked with her about real estate and what I was doing throughout that entire time period. So that way she saw it and she grew with me. Okay, so that was the first step in what I did. The second thing I did was I had 10 to 20 pages of information, not only about the deal, but myself. How is she going to trust me with $10,000 if she can't trust everything about me? She has to know everything about me. So here's what I gave her, all the 10 to 20 pages of documents. I gave her an entire pro forma on the deal itself, an entire spreadsheet showing from beginning to end about not only how it makes money, okay, but also how we're going to buy it and how the bank is going to refinance them out of it. That's really important because I want to know how are they going to get their money back. I gave them my credit report. I gave her my bank statements. I gave her everything, anything about me. I gave her the ARV and comps from a realtor, and we're going to get into that. I definitely made sure to get a realtor to do actual comps on the property, so now I can show her this is how I know what the ARVs are going to be that the bank is going to give me a loan on. This builds trust and confidence. All of these factors are huge. You want to show how you found the rental rates, how you found, what type of tenant is going to live in the property. You need to know everything about that property so they can feel comfortable in giving you that money. And that is how I got my first investor. Now, from there, I managed to get one house, sure, but then I needed a second investor. So how did I get that person? Well, this is where I networked with a realtor. Now, I'm absolutely stress you want a realtor whom is an investor first. Don't just get any old homeowner realtor. A lot of them aren't going to know really what you're doing, and even if they do know a little bit, they're not going to know well enough to be your mentor, which is important to have. So you want a realtor whom is an investor. Well, this investor happened to know many other investors, of course, because they're already doing investment in real estate. So ultimately, they gave me another lender who ended up giving me $20,000 for my next deal. So this was huge and absolutely critical. This person was a person who happened to have flipped a couple homes, kind of understood the lingo already, and therefore, when I sound like I know what I'm talking about to this person, once again, the power of educating yourself on this, he believed that I knew what I was doing, had confidence in what I'm doing. This is how you get the more accredited investors, if we can say it like that. I mean, not necessarily true in that state, but basically someone who understands these numbers already. So my first investor simply had a lot of money sitting around, and the second one actually knew what they were doing. This conversation is actually a lot easier because you don't really have to explain how everything works. You can just simply give them the pro forma, and that's really all they need, and that simply builds all the confidence they have, you know, in you and your skills. Now, my third investor was actually my parents. Now, this one might sound weird. Why was this not your first one? My parents actually don't like giving money to their kids, so this isn't something they normally do. They don't like the idea of, they enjoy the self-made man. It's basically their concept. And outside of my parents aren't necessarily rich. They are just middle-class Americans, and actually the rest of my family outside of my parents is actually quite poor. So my family really wasn't an option. I didn't know any rich friends. But my parents saw what I was doing, and now at this point I own 2 houses. So they were getting a little bit intrigued by this entire thing. Now, what I did with my parents was I set it up as a business transaction. Make sure there is no relation, in fact, of parent and child. It was, once again, showing them all the spreadsheets, showing them how this works. And this time they became partners in the deal. So they wanted to learn how it worked. All right, they wanted to learn real estate as they went, and I taught them how to invest in real estate as they invested money. And this is something I'm happily willing to do for any of you watching out there. If any of you are interested in lending money in exchange for, not only will I pay you, of course, interest on the money, but I'll pay you back after the refinance, and the entire time I will show you everything I'm doing and show you the entire process. That is something I'd be more than happy to do for you. That's what I did for them, and they have absolutely loved it, and now they are thinking about getting their own investment property this year. Now, the next investor that I wanted to talk about is my coworker. I actually had an ex-coworker, actually. She was retired by the time I had actually talked to her about this, but she decided to invest 10 grand as well. And this is an untapped potential here. I work in a building full of engineers. If you happen to work in any building with a lot of engineers or doctors or some lawyer types, then you have to note that there's probably a lot of money sitting around on the table. And this person was able to tap into their IRA or investment accounts that they really can't touch very much, and they could invest that money with me and earn a lot more on their money than they were earning previously. Once again, all of the information that I mentioned is huge. Having all the documentation available so that they can know that you know what you're doing. In this case, I also began sending monthly emails. All right. Now, with my investors, what I do is I make sure, 1, that they get paid every single month, okay, and 2, that they receive my emails every month. This gives them confidence in keeping their money in the deal. They now not only know what you're doing every single month, but they know that they're receiving income every month. That feeling of receiving income every month is actually a really good feeling, especially when you see that the emails are showing, hey, how far along everything is, to when they get all their money back. Often what I found from this process is a lot of times they're like, you know what, Devin, you just keep the money and I'll go ahead and reinvest it with you, and I hope you're going to work on another project. Perfect. A lot of times I will try to pay them back, and we'll write up a new promissory note, and that's what they do. So now I have investors who are becoming recycled in the deal. By the time I got my 4th and 5th property, my parents were kind of like this as well. They were saying, okay, go ahead and keep it, and we will continue to see our returns coming in. Now, the next 2 investors that I have are actually people who use their individual retirement accounts as well. So if you guys don't know what that is, you can actually take loans from retirement accounts like a 401k or IRA. That is a whole nother video, but a lot of these accounts don't make 12% on your money, and that's the best part about this private lending, is I can give them 12% of their money, maybe 10, 12, depends on what their situation is, but basically more than what they were making before. So these people have a lot of untapped potential, and it's money they couldn't touch anyway. So hey, why not lend it out? So these people were once again part of my network that was starting to begin to grow, and one of them is even from YouTube. It was actually a person from YouTube. In fact, as of the recording of this video, I'm actually meeting someone this week from YouTube to talk about lending and how we're going to do a partnership and different aspects of that. So you start to build a network also. In your case, if you're not going to make a YouTube channel, I suppose you can do it through RIAs, which are real estate associations. You can meet them on that way. Bigger Pockets, they have a massive forum for this. I'd recommend doing it that way. There are a lot of people who understand the concept that if you're not making money, then you're losing money. Due to the factors of inflation and how money operates, you never really keep your money the same in the bank at all times. So they know if they have 200 grand sitting in a bank account, they're losing money every year. So they are eager to move it. So, you can find a lot of these investors. You just really have to network it out by the time you get to this point. My seventh investor is actually my roofer. So this one's kind of a weird one, but basically I had a roofer whom he just grew to like me over time, and basically he started giving me private loans. And this is a pretty interesting source of private money, is basically start talking to everybody. Just tell everyone that you invest in real estate. Remember I told you about my coworker before. I just told everyone, hey, I'm investing in real estate. This is what I'm doing. I didn't ask for any money. Don't do that. I have had some friends get burned by, starting off the relationship as, hey, can you give me some money? Don't do that. Just talk to them about real estate. Just talk to them about it in general. Say, here's what I'm doing. This is the amount of money I'm making. And most people will become excited and they'll actually want to be interested in partnering with you. After you hear now, like at my point now, I have 8 investors, then they're interested if a conversation comes up. If you don't have any investors just yet, then just talk about how, you have, that people do make money through investing in real estate in the investors themselves. There's a lot of different ways to pull this off, but what I wouldn't recommend doing is calling up your friends out of the blue that you haven't talked to in years and then saying, hey, can I have 10 grand? So that's going to get real uncomfortable and you can burn some relationships that way. But basically, this person I just happened to be talking about real estate with, and he ended up becoming a lender. So you never know when these people sort of come across your lap like that. So these are many of the different ways I've acquired private money, but I'm interested in hearing about the ways you've acquired private money. Let me know in the comments section below how you've done that, and I'd be interested in many of the other ways that maybe I didn't even mention in this video. So that's it for this video, and I will talk to you all very soon.